to the champs. The UVM women's field hockey team ended their 2024 champion as the #1 team in America East with a come-from-behind victory over their rivals, University of New Hampshire, this past November. And we'll talk with the team's head coach on this historic victory and what it means for the program going forward. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Across the Fence. I'm Jolie Whitney. It's not every day we get to host or hoist a championship trophy on our set. This is the first women's championship in field hockey for UVM women's field hockey program, thanks in large part to the training and guidance of our guest today. Kate Pfeifer came to UVM in 2014, and she brought with her a championship pedigree, having been a perennial championship competitor and winner as a player at Michigan and as a coach at Northeastern. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Jolie.
And as we were preparing this, my producer and I, we both realized that neither of us know a lot about field hockey. So before we jump into it, just for anyone else like me, why don't you tell us about it?
Well, field hockey is an interesting sport. It's a wonderful sport that has been around for a long time. It's actually one of the most popular sports in the world, played by men and women abroad. It's just a sport mostly for women here in the U.S., but one that I've played for most of my life now or coached. And it's really similar in a lot of ways to soccer. We have 11 players on the pitch, 10 field players and a goalkeeper. I think there's similarities to lacrosse and ice hockey, a lot of crossover. But it's a unique one and one that is very dear to my heart.
And kind of as we said in the beginning, you have a long history with field hockey. So you've been doing it through college and now your career. What helped you stick with it?
Yeah, I had a wonderful career in college. Even before that, really successful state championship team in Clinton, New York, where I grew up. And, I knew that it was going to be something impactful in my life. I didn't know that, 25 years later, I'd still be coaching and have it be this much part of my life. But, it's a great team sport. I think it builds camaraderie, trust, confidence in young women. And for me, especially in my college years, we were lucky to have a lot of success. And we won conference championships. We won a national title, the first for a women's team at the University of Michigan. And I think that gave me a huge sense of pride and a real connection to the sport that kind of led me to continue pursuing it, even in moments where I wasn't sure that was going to be my career path.
Yeah, was there a time that you realized you wanted to go from player to coach?
I think when I left my college career, I was feeling ready to kind of take on a different path and go in a different direction. I was looking at some different options for a career, and I kept kind of feeling this pull back to coach. I was coaching for club teams, coaching for a local school team in Chicago when I lived there. And I just had this sense that it was something really meaningful to me. I always was interested in group dynamics and just sort of the building of success, whatever that might mean in a setting. And when I had an opportunity to work at Northeastern and pursue an MBA there, I had a couple options that I was thinking about, but eventually coaching kind of won out and won over my heart.
So is UVM the first college team that you've coached?
This is my first head coaching position. We moved up here, my husband and I, about 10 years ago, and specifically for this job at UVM.
Absolutely, and already great success. And to speak a little bit more to that, while in sports, hyperbole is kind of part of the gig, but it's not an understatement to say that 2024 was a historic season for UVM's women's field hockey team. First America East title in the program, first 3 playoff victories in program history, previously 0-8 in the America East tournament, first NCAA tournament appearance, and the 1-0 win in the semifinals was actually Vermont's first win over UAlbany in 16 years, and the Catamounts' first win since 2001. So quite an achievement. Mm-hmm. And it's not only like an achievement for the team, but there were a lot of personal firsts from many members. So it's been a couple of weeks since you guys finally you won, of course. And so have you had the chance to kind of wrap your head around it?
It's been an interesting reflection period. I think there's moments that I have where I remember certain aspects of the season because, of course, it ended on a very high note, but there's ups and downs, trials through every season with every team. And I think that's where some of the real value lies in the fact that we were able to do this and overcome some significant adversity during the season. And you mentioned all those firsts, it's really challenging to sort of achieve those things when you're setting your sights on them, you're setting your goals that way, but we hadn't actually been there before. Been a long time since UVM had beaten Albany, as you mentioned. They were a fantastic team this year, ranked in the top 20 for the entire year nationally. And to go into that match and have to play back-to-back like we did. We played the quarterfinal on the Thursday, turn around and have to play one of the top teams in the country who's hosting the tournament, and put up basically the best performance to date of our season was a huge challenge. And I'm just super proud of the way our players responded in that moment and found that belief. And yeah, that's a point of reflection that I continue to look back on right now, and I'm very, very proud.
That's incredible. And if you ever forget all the achievement, you have this big piece of hardware in your office to remember it.
That's right.
And you actually have we looked at the roster before this, and you have a lot of juniors and seniors on the team. What does it mean to have that kind of senior leadership along with your coaching?
It's everything. I think the most successful teams I've been a part of as a player and a coach, we had tremendous experience on the team, leadership from players who'd been close or had that experience before of being at the tournament in this case. Our seniors have been there 3 years in a row now, and they lost in the quarterfinal in their sophomore and junior seasons, and getting back to that quarterfinal, it gave us a lot of drive to try to get past that round and be able to see what could be next, and so that was the first accomplishment really in the tournament, and I think they really came out ready to go and just made a statement with that first quarterfinal win. And we celebrated that one as if it was the championship at the time, and then it was about just continuing to go on and get the next win and move forward. So the seniors really led the way on that. I think they, again, we have 8 of them this year. 2 joined the program later. One is a grad student and one in her junior year as a transfer, but the others have been with us for their full career. And they really made their mark on the program and left a legacy, and hopefully created a turning point for the program that we're going to be able to build on in years to come.
So take us to that championship moment. You guys, at halftime, you were down 2 points. What was the locker room like?
It was challenging. I think the fact that UNH scored in the first minute or so of the match was really deflating at the time. But we had played, again, through some adversity all season long. We had a really challenging schedule to start the season, which was intentional, put us up against some tough competition and see what we're able to do when we're playing down a goal, down 2 goals. And the interesting thing was the full belief that the team had in that moment, that they had the tools and the ability to come back in that moment. UNH was playing really intensely and really came out ready to go and created some great opportunities, but we were actually out shooting and out possessing them through the first quarter. And so we talked about that at the half, and the players really just looked at each other, and I just asked them to remember that belief that they have in themselves and to go out there and get it done, and they certainly did.
And so when you were talking about post-game, you said the team really wanted to come out on their front foot, and that was something they were really motivated and like you said, kind of had this belief going forward. As your coach, is your role there to just kind of take a step back and let them go from there?
Yeah, it's interesting. The moment where we scored our first goal in the third quarter, we were actually contesting whether or not it should have been a penalty stroke or a corner. And in that moment, the players stayed really calm. They put together the corner, option that we were going to run, and they executed it beautifully. And I thought that showed a huge level of maturity and just experience again in that moment. And it was really wonderful to take a step back and watch that happen. And I think that really was the turning point in the game for us.
Yeah, tell me about kind of when you all felt that the tides turn a little bit and it went from down 2 to we could win this.
Yeah, I think anytime you spend that much time, like we do with our penalty corner attack, on options, and we're talking about the things that might be happening and why we're going to run a certain option, and then it works, it gives a lot of confidence to the players, and I think that is exactly what happened in that moment. They felt a space open up, they ran the play, it worked beautifully, and from that moment on, they knew that they could do it. They knew that we were going to be able to look to other options. We could create moments that were going to be exciting for us on our counterattack, and that, again, we had the tools to really be able to get the win.
Great. And what comes next?
Well, after that, we had a great breakaway goal, and Marie did a fantastic job finishing on that one, but an incredible build-up created by our whole forward line on that play. Again, a huge sense of pride I have in how we played together as a team throughout the season. That was a hallmark of what was happening for us down the stretch. And then another fantastic moment on a corner to get that game-winning goal. And I think again, the hours and hours that they put into training that you watch as a coach, it's so meaningful when you see it pay off in a moment like that.
And what's your plan to kind of defend the title going forward into next season?
So as we move forward, I think it's going to be hopefully again a stepping stone for the program. I think it's really always a challenging thing to repeat, but something we're going to definitely set our sights on, and hopefully it'll be a motivational factor for us as we move into our spring training and look to get some more players on board. And there's a lot of excitement right now around the program. From recruits, from everyone who's been supporting us, of course, all season long, but also players who saw what we were able to do and really want to be a part of it. So that's pretty exciting too.
And you talked about recruitment a little bit, and you have a couple first years this year from the Netherlands. Is that something you're going to keep doing, kind of recruiting internationally?
The international recruits are wonderful. They bring an element of technical ability and tactical understanding that a lot of the American players are growing into during their college years. And the international players tend to start at a younger age, and so they have a bit of that they can really add early on in their career. They also have a flavor that they add based on the style they play or just who they are as people that just creates an enhanced group dynamic, I think.
Great.
So we'll certainly continue to look for those international players and have a good mix, both players from the States and abroad.
And we're almost out of time, but I have to ask, do you think UVM now, with you as the coach, of course, could beat your team in Michigan?
It's a great question. I would like to think that we could give a great fight, and I think anything's possible. That's the belief that this team has given me, certainly, is that we shouldn't ever underestimate ourselves. I think we set our sights early in the season on making the final of the tournament and hopefully winning that championship and being able to bring a trophy home. But I think the sky's the limit right now.
Anything could happen.
Anything can happen.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Jolie.
And that's our program for today. My thanks to the championship crew behind the scenes who always makes us look like a winner. This is Across the Fence. I'm Jolie Whitney. Have a good one.